I might not know the first thing about theoretical physics, but I am an expert in string theory. According to this theory, everything there is to know about you as a person can be figured out by knowing what stringed instrument you play. But string theory isn't just a theory, it's scientific fact. Now, I might not be able to define things like gravity or quarks, but your personality and quirks can be defined by what stringed instrument you play, and so can everything else about you. You might think you chose your stringed instrument, but you didn't. It chose you. And now it's going to tell me everything I didn't want to know about you. Number 1. Acoustic guitar. Owning an acoustic guitar tells me exactly nothing about you because everyone I've ever met has one sitting around somewhere. However, if an acoustic guitar is your main instrument, that tells me all sorts of shit. For starters, it tells me that I won't be impressed by your playing. 99% of acoustic guitarists only know how to play a handful of common chords using basic strumming patterns. And since most acoustic players never try to learn anything more, no serious musician will ever learn to respect you. You love the acoustic guitar because you think it fits your vibe perfectly. And it does, but not the chill, deep-thinking, laid-back vibe you like to think you give off. It fits the vibe you actually give off. Boring. While 0.001% of acoustic guitarists like Ewan Dobson and Antoine Dufour can actually be exciting to hear and see play, watching you is a bore and hearing you is a snore. Which is fine if you just play at home sitting on your behind and want nothing more. But what if you want to take your playing out the door? With chords, you can still get away with only knowing 3 or 4, but you may want to go and buy a new guitar at the music store. Number 2. Acoustic electric guitar. Acoustic electric guitars seem like they'd be the best of both worlds. And they are. They combine the size and clumsiness of an acoustic guitar with the need to buy an amp, cord, and other expensive crap like you do with an electric. So when it comes to awkward sizes and high costs, acoustic electrics really are the best around. If an acoustic electric guitar is your main instrument, it tells me a few things. 1. You're indecisive and afraid of commitment. You won't commit solely to an electric, an acoustic, a single style of music, or to playing in a band. Although that last one has less to do with your fear of commitment and more to do with the fact that no band wants a dedicated acoustic electric player. Regardless, you like your pizza half cheese, half pepperoni, your coffee half regular, half decaf, and your guitar's half acoustic, half electric because you're half a pussy and do everything half-assed. But that's only half the story. Another thing your acoustic electric tells me is that you regularly attend half the open mics in your area and maybe even do a little busking because there's a 99% chance you're a singer-songwriter. If it wasn't for your fear of commitment, you'd be a singer or a songwriter. But since you can't seem to decide on a fucking thing, you're a singer/songwriter who plays an acoustic/electric because you think it's cool/practical, when in reality everyone just thinks you suck/blow. Number 3. Electric guitar. Since I've already made 2 videos about this exact topic which I'll link to probably nowhere, I won't say much. What I will say is that if the electric guitar is your main instrument, since it's almost everyone else's main instrument too, you've got 2 options if you ever hope to join a band. 1. Practice your ass off and get so good at the electric guitar that you separate yourself from all the other wannabe rockers. Or 2. What you're actually going to do, because it's 1,000 times easier, put down the electric and pick up a new stringed instrument. One that doesn't require picks and might get you picked on a bit, but guarantees you'll get picked up by one of the billion bands begging for someone who can play it. Number 4. Bass guitar. Basic, boring, bland. These words all describe both you and the bass in your hand, but you don't care because you belong to a band, which is the only reason why anyone anywhere would ever choose the bass guitar as their main instrument. Something like 90% of bassists start out with a regular 6-stringed electric, but quickly learn that their sausage fingers are too fat for the fretboard, and their brains are too small to think about 6 strings at the same time. Discouraged, your hope of ever joining a band fades. But then you realize there's another type of guitar with bigger frets and only 4 strings, which brings your hope right back because a bassist is something many bands lack. If the bass is your main instrument, you're golden. It's easy to play, you'll have no trouble joining a band, and there are far fewer accessories to buy than there are for other guitars, and you only need to change the strings like once every 10 years. The only real downside of being a bass player is that, well, you're a bass player. You're the least cool, least important member of any band. But at least you're in a band, unlike most of your electric guitar playing friends. For shy, introverted people, the bass guitar can be a great choice. Unless you're Victor Wooten or Les Claypool, no one is going to notice you. Ever. On stage, backstage, out in the community, you're basically invisible everywhere you go. It's an introvert's dream come true. You won't get noticed anywhere you go, and no one, not even the fans of your band, will know your name. I'll prove it. Let's play a little game. Without looking them up, name as many bassists as you can off the top of your head from these 15 popular bands. From those bands, how many bassists can you name? If you think you know all 15, then I know you're a fucking liar because 3 of them don't even have a bass player. I can't really blame you for not noticing, since most bassists are as invisible as the sound waves coming from their amps as they play nothing but 8th-note chord roots for every song. So, it's just as excusable to not notice when a band's missing a bassist as it is to not notice the bassist of bands who have one. If you play the bass, you may know the names of a few bassists from those bands, but odds are that you, like me, don't know a single one. Just like how, as a bassist, no one is going to claim to know your name. It's a shame if you came to the bass game with the aim of finding fame, but to you introverted bassists, it's all the same. Number 5, upright bass. People who play these things are the lowest of the low. Literally. Of all the stringed instruments, or chordophones for you terminology nerds out there, this one is capable of hitting notes so low, they'll make your IQ, GPA, and credit score all look sky high. The upright bass is, well, a massive acoustic bass that's played standing upright. You'd think upright bass would be a good enough name since it's a perfect description of the instrument. But for some reason, these things get called a bunch of different names like double bass, contrabass, stand-up bass, acoustic bass, bull fiddle, string bass, and more. Whatever you call them, these things are big, heavy, expensive, and capable of hitting low bass, bass, bass notes. But there's one type of upright bass in particular that's even bigger, heavier, and more expensive than all the rest. And they can hit notes so low, they make the bass guitar sound like a ukulele. I'm talking about the octobass. Since an octopus has 8 arms and an octagon has 8 sides, you might think that an octobass has 8 strings. But these 12-foot-tall instruments only have 3 that are tuned lower than a regular upright bass. But unlike an upright that can be played with your fingers, the octobass is so tall, heavy, and awkward that it can only be played by using a bow along with a series of levers and pedals, which makes this monstrosity of an instrument both incredibly impractical and poorly named. Why is this thing even called an octobass? Is it because it requires 8 dudes to help you lift it into the 800 horsepower truck with the 8-foot bed you had to buy just to transport the thing? Probably not, but maybe. A better question would be to ask why you or anyone else would choose an octobass or any upright bass as your main instrument. I can only assume it's because you lost some sort of bet or something, and not because you're a masochist who enjoys the struggle of trying to get your instrument up or down even the smallest of staircases. All I know is, whether you're laid back or uptight, if the bass you play is upright, then something in your head just ain't right. Do you want to show off your love of music with a comfortable, stylish, and affordable t-shirt like this one? How about one of these? You can find shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, and other awesome music-related products at MusicBSharp.com. Whether you want to help support this channel, or just want to get your hands on some cool, high-quality music-related merch, get your ass over to MusicBSharp.com. MusicBSharp.com. Number 6, ukulele. These adorable little instruments are exactly the same as upright basses in every conceivable way, except when it comes to their size, cost, coolness, playability, portability, and reliability, as well as the owner's relatability and personality. But aside from those things, they're practically identical. Alright, fine, you got me. The only thing ukes have in common with most uprights is that they're both acoustic instruments with 4 strings, but the similarities end there. Ukuleles are small, relatively inexpensive, easy to set up, transport, and play, and can be strummed or picked like an acoustic guitar, which is essentially what a ukulele is. A cute little high-pitched 4-stringed acoustic guitar that almost looks like a child's toy, but it's no toy to you. As childish as you may be in every other area of your life, you take your ukulele very seriously. You also take it with you everywhere you go because you never know when you're going to want to show that you can play over the rainbow. Even though you can't sing it as well as that fat Hawaiian bro on the radio, like Iz was, you're a true ukulele aficionado. Although, you're no hero like he is. If you've ever seen a photo of his, you know how micro the uke looked in those jumbo hands of his. When it comes to playing the ukulele, you're 100% gung-ho. You love audio, but didn't want to spend a lot of dough on a banjo, dobro, or piano. So, you bought a uke and bring it with you everywhere you go, because it's small enough to just throw in with your other cargo. Of all the instruments on the list, if your next-door neighbor is learning to play one of them, the ukulele is the least annoying. They're so small you might not even hear him practicing at all. And if you do, between their size and the way ukuleles are tuned, even if he's only been playing for like 2 days and just strums away, it won't sound half bad. But if your neighbor decides to pick up, say, a regular guitar, you can look forward to at least a couple years of hearing nothing but botched chords, wrong notes, and other noise before starting to hear what sounds like music. If some sort of bass is what your neighbor picks up, half your shit will fall down to the floor as its low rumbling vibrates your walls, shelves, and chest every day. But with the ukulele, even if your neighbor was trying to annoy you, its cheerful tone would probably just make you feel like you're on a Hawaiian vacation. The ukulele simply isn't capable of being very annoying, even in the hands of a beginner. However, this next instrument is sure to annoy everyone when played by anyone other than an absolute virtuoso. Number 7, violin. The violin is such a beautiful instrument. Beautiful looking, that is. But there's nothing beautiful about the high-pitched squealing that come out of these things. Violins kinda look like ukuleles that are played with a bow, but they kinda sound like a cat being tortured when played by anyone who hasn't dedicated years to practicing the thing. If the violin is your main instrument, you likely chose it because you associate it with romance and thought it would make you look more sophisticated. And eventually it will once you've got 10,000 hours of practice time under your belt. But even if you've got a $10,000 Stradivarius, there's nothing romantic about listening to you squeal away on your violin. Even on the rare occasion that you actually play a note clean, since violins don't have frets, it's still 50 cents out of tune and sounds like shit. Violinists typically come in two types. You've got your classical violinists who are usually a bit emo, tend to be perfectionists, and will obsess endlessly about things like theory and technique. And then you've got your folk musicians who will punch you in the mouth if you call their fiddle a violin, so be careful how you speak. For some reason, the name of this instrument changes depending on whose hands it's in. If you play classical, it's a violin. If you play folk music, it's a fiddle. Same exact instrument, totally different name. Makes no sense. But no matter what you call it, in your hands, this instrument makes no sounds that I or anyone else want to hear. Number 8. Banjo. If a snare drum, a tambourine, and a guitar got together, made love, and had a baby, that baby would be the banjo, which combines the worst elements of all three into one hard-to-play instrument. Now, I'll admit, I'm a little intimidated by the banjo and the psychos who play them. Every time I see a guy with one, I have the same thought. Look at this redneck with his banjo. What a hick. But as soon as that hick starts to fingerpick quick, my mind is blown as he starts showing that with the banjo, he's quite sick. I'm always impressed by the hummingbird-like speed at which banjoists can play. If the banjo is your main instrument and you can play the thing, you've got my respect. But you've also got to stay the hell away from me because I don't like being shown up. Out in the wild, the banjo is the only known natural predator of the electric guitar. If I'm shredding away on my electric, I can't have you come along with your banjo, stealing my thunder, shredding circles around me, all without having to plug the thing in. Take your 5-string snare drum and go plop down on a porch somewhere and do all your crazy fast playing there. Maybe invite over one of your backwoods bros and you two can play dueling banjos. Out in the sticks, you might be a hoedown hero, so get you and your fingerpicks out of here and don't forget your banjo. Number 9. Harp. For something that sounds so heavenly, this hellish instrument is a freaking nightmare for anyone who dare learn to play the thing. But it's not the actual playing that's the hard part. Getting your harp set up and in tune is going to be more challenging than anything you ever learn to play. Between the fact that your harp has 47 strings, 7 pedals, and weighs 77 pounds, your entire first year as a harpist will be spent learning to tune the thing, as well as building the upper body strength necessary to move it. Now, when I picture a harpist in my head and it's a dude, I usually envision some pussy wearing skinny jeans with toothpicks for arms and weak little hands. But if the harp is your main instrument and you've been playing it for a while, lugging it around with you, you've likely turned into a mini Hulk with fingers so calloused that your hands spark when you clap. The good news is, once you've gotten through your first couple years of harp lessons and know how to tune the thing, you're home free. Now all you gotta do is run a finger along the strings and your harp's angelic sound will wow everyone you know. Prepare to watch the jaws of your guitarist friends drop as they try to fathom the idea of having 8 times more strings to deal with. Be careful inviting any bassist friends over to watch you because your playing might actually make their heads explode. And trust me, you don't want that. If you think tuning a harp is hard, try cleaning blood and chunks of brain out from between all 47 of its strings. As a harpist, you'll have plenty of opportunities to get up on your high horse so you can harp on those of us who play an instrument that only has 4, 6, or at most 12 strings. Like your harp, you see yourself as being more complicated and expressive than the rest of us. But when we realize that a well-tuned harp is impossible to make sound bad, your skill level with your instrument will become sus. But at least now you're strong enough to pick up a bus. So that's a plus. Number 10. Double neck guitar. This is an A-stringed instrument. It's 2 stringed instruments combined into one, which is why these things look twice as stupid as anything else on the list, as do the people who play them. A double neck guitar is exactly what it sounds like. A guitar with 2 necks. One typically with 6 strings, one with 12. But since you only have 2 hands, you can only ever play one at a time, which makes this instrument as impractical as it is awkward. Just like you. I'll be honest, I've never met anyone who claimed a double neck guitar to be their main instrument. However, I do know a few people who own one and claim to occasionally play them, even though I've never heard them actually do so. What I have heard them do is talk about how great it is to own a double neck guitar. Since I've never owned one myself, I wouldn't know. What I do know is that owning a double neck guitar couldn't possibly feel any greater than it does to make fun of other people for buying such an impractical, overpriced, goofy-looking instrument. Okay, I'm done stringing you along. Whether or not you're a second-string musician on a shoestring budget like me, one thing we have in common, one thing stringing us together, is that we both come with strings attached. Stringed instruments can be incredibly expressive and tug hard on a person's every last heartstring, so go pick up yours and get practicing the thing. If you like this shirt, it's available in lots of colors and sizes at MusicBSharp.com, along with lots of other music-related merch. Link in the description. And if you'd like to hear some of my stringed instrument playing, check out my album Denialism, or search for this dude on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you listen to music.